The foreclosure crisis in Wayne County, Michigan's gay marriage question heads to the Supreme Court, uproar over City Council's arena delay, and the best headlines game you're going to find anywhere. Stay put, play along. MiWeek starts right now.
Recently, Michigan's economy has begun to turn around. Michigan's gained over 250,000 new jobs. We've paid off $20 billion in long-term debt. And our population is increasing for the first time in a decade. But to make Michigan a top 10 state, there's still plenty of work to be done. Step up and help put Michigan on top. Learn what you can do at MichiganTurnaroundPlan.com.
Funding is also provided by Delta.
Welcome to MiWeek. We're so happy that you've joined us. I'm Christy McDonald. It was a big week. A lot of people talking about the 2016 presidential race. Yes, Hillary is running. Also, Detroit City Council accused of dragging their feet. But we're starting tonight with a closer look at the foreclosure crisis in Wayne County. Coming up, there is some added time for homeowners to get some help. The Chief Deputy Treasurer from Wayne County joins us here to talk about it. Plus, the gay marriage question in Michigan heads to the Supreme Court in a matter of weeks. Also, another delay in voting on the new Wings Arena. Is it same old City Council, or are they just doing their job? We'll talk about that. And a new game from the MiWeek game cabinet, fill in the blank with all the big stories that is coming up for you on MiWeek. But we do start with the foreclosure problem in Wayne County. 76,000 homes are facing tax foreclosure this year. New laws have helped people get payment plans with fewer penalties, and now the county is extending the time that homeowners can get some help. Joining us now is the Chief Deputy Treasurer of Wayne County, David Szymanski. David, thanks for joining us on MiWeek, and welcome.
My pleasure to be here.
Of course, we always have our MiWeek contributors, Nolan Finley of the Detroit News, Stephen Henderson of the Detroit Free Press. Guys, it's always good to see you, so let's jump right in. And David, let me start with you. When we say 76,000 properties be foreclosed on, 61,000 or so were in the city of Detroit. And when you look at the total bill that's owed to the county, what would that total bill be?
Oh, it's over $100 million. And much of that will have to write off if people don't come in and pay their taxes. And that's simply the case that we've been facing for years. Understand we've gone from a population of 1.8 million in the city of Detroit to under 700,000. So we got housing for basically 1 million people that don't exist any longer. That housing stock has to be cleared out or stabilized, and that's really what we're trying to do.
All right, so there has been some new legislation that lessens the penalties for people who are now have to pay off some of these massive tax bills from an 18% interest to 6% if they follow some certain guidelines. How many people so far have enrolled in some kind of plan?
We have over 10,000 who have enrolled in these plans. In fact, when you talk about the 76,000 we started with, we're now down to 32,000 properties still facing foreclosure, and out of those 32,000, 21,000 are unoccupied properties. I don't want to say we don't care about those properties, but they're lower priority. Our priority are the occupied properties. There we're looking at about 11,000 occupied properties still in foreclosure, and out of those we believe about 5,000 to 7,000 are owner occupied. That's our primary target, is to reach those people, and that's what we're trying to do, is figure out how to get direct to them, because what we've done so far hasn't gotten to them, and we want to reach those people.
Dave, every year this problem grows. Every year there are more and more properties that have reached the point where you guys are talking about foreclosure. And the legislation sort of helps at the immediate point of crisis, but it's not really addressing the bigger picture. What is the long-term problem that we're having, and what's the long-term solution we ought to be thinking about to stop this from happening?
Well, the problem we've got is that historically we were only dealing with 1 year of foreclosure. These new plans that we're getting people involved in sets up a 4.5 to 5 year payment plan, gets them on a budget, which hopefully will help them catch up. The plan is set up so that they have to pay 10% of their base tax as a down payment, 3% of the base tax per month as their monthly payment. And then the real kicker here that people have to be aware of is they can't let any more taxes go delinquent.
They can't keep letting it accrue.
Right, and so the city of Detroit has been very proactive in this regard. Mayor Duggan has indicated anybody who's in one of these, what we call interest reduction stipulated payment agreements, will be given until February of next year to pay their 2015 taxes without penalty or interest. That's a huge step. So working together with Mayor Duggan, and of course we've got other communities in Wayne County we're working with that face similar situations. We're facing the best of years and the worst of years. It's the worst of years because we've got so many foreclosures. It's the best of years because we've got these plans that have never been available before that, as mentioned, will let us reduce.
Is it that the rates are too high and people can't afford it? Is it that people just forget and fall behind because we don't do a good job at collection?
There's so many factors that add up to this. It's assessments that were inappropriate for years,
which the mayor's trying to fix.
And the mayor is working very hard on that. He's got a tremendous team over at with Gary Ivanko and Alvin Horn trying to take care of that. But then I think the other thing that happened is when the economy failed, and we hear it's coming back, but until it comes back to Michigan, to Detroit, to your home, it really doesn't make a difference. And so people were faced with a difficult choice of feeding their family or paying their taxes. That's a pretty easy choice. You feed your family.
Sure.
Well, they realized the sky didn't fall instantly. They didn't lose their house overnight. So the next year comes up, and maybe they start to get some money, and now they figure, well, the sky didn't fall last year, so I can sort of pass on the taxes this year. So culture has grown of a belief that, we were raised knowing that two things are certain in life, death and taxes, and it sort of became just death. And so now we've got to make sure that people understand, if they don't pay their taxes, if you don't pay your electric bill, we can turn off the electricity. We can't, but the electric company will turn off your electricity.
Sure.
You don't pay for your water, and now we've seen water turnoffs. If you don't pay your taxes, I can't stop government services to your home. I can't tell the fire department, don't put the fire out at that house because they didn't pay their taxes. But yes, you can put the fire. We can't do that.
Right.
So the only way to make sure that the property is paying for the services is to take the home. We don't want to do that. But if you're not paying your taxes, your neighbor is subsidizing.
Is subsidizing you, sure.
So, we've seen the water cutoffs were a similar situation, and people were put on repayment plans, got their service restored, but now we're seeing a lot of those folks still can't meet the obligations under the repayment plan. Do you expect that to be a similar situation with these tax?
I certainly expect there will be a number of people who will not be able to maintain compliance, and those are people who unfortunately probably can't afford to own a home themselves. And solutions have to be found for those people who are homeless or can't afford homes. But part of home ownership is paying the bills. Like I say, if you don't pay your cable bill, you're not going to be watching this TV show tomorrow night.
So how much, how many of these properties do you expect to come back to the county and go into the whole tax sale process?
I really have no good answer for that. This should be anybody who signs up for these programs should be out of the process for 2 years, because the way it's set up, by the time they default, it'll be too late to foreclose next year. So it at least gets them a couple of years. We think the payments are reasonable enough that the vast majority of people should be able to reach those payments, but certainly there'll be a number who will not be.
So you said you're going to have to write down some of that $100 million. How much of that $100 million would you expect to write down?
Well, it's much more than $100 million. We probably will write off $80 to $100 million in taxes, and we've been doing that on an annual basis.
So you have a deadline extended right now for people to be able to get help. And you need to get you said you're targeting 15,000 homeowners?
11,000 occupied properties. We think there's about 5,000 that are owner occupied, and as I say, and these programs apply only to owner occupied properties, and the extension is for owner occupied properties. So the important thing is for them to contact our offices by May 12. We've extended to May 12 now. I know that I'll be going to meet with the commission, and they're asking us to extend it even further. But there's just no reason to delay. The time to come in is now.
Yeah, you talk about extending things even further, because there has to be somewhere along the line a point in time where you have a deadline. But when you talk about 11,000 properties even, or the entire number of 61,000 in the city of Detroit, and what that could mean to neighborhoods and areas if all of a sudden you have homes where now families are foreclosed on and they are not the vibrant neighborhoods that they should be, or they're not part of that eventual turnaround.
And the problem is, if we don't take these steps and people continue to neglect their taxes, we won't be able to provide city services. And that will only lead to further deterioration of the neighborhoods. And that's something we just can't see happen. I also have to mention, our staff has been phenomenal this year. Facing the volume of people we've dealt with, the level of respect and courtesy they give to the public, and I also have to say the public has been phenomenal, because they come in and we're tax collectors. A lot of people don't think much of tax collectors, but they come in, they're friendly, they're courteous, they get down to business, and they understand there's a problem they've got to deal with.
All right, David Szymanski, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you.
And for more information on how to get help from Wayne County, just head to our website, MiWeek.org. We'll have a link for you there. In 2 weeks, the question of Michigan's gay marriage ban heads to the U.S. Supreme Court. We are not the only state the court is hearing arguments from. The Michigan Attorney General's office is getting ready to aggressively defend the 2004 statewide vote that defined marriage as between a man and a woman. Nolan, I'm going to ask you because you saw Attorney General Bill Schuette this week, and they're formulating what their plan is. And what did you hear from him?
Well, I mean, they're going to make the case that the 14th Amendment doesn't, I mean, this is a 14th Amendment case, that it doesn't deal with marriage, and that marriage law is left to the states. And they're not going to make the argument whether, you know, gay marriage is a good thing for society or not a good thing for society. They're strictly going to make the case that the 14th Amendment doesn't deal with marriage, and so that's left to the state. And the people in a democratic system have the right to decide whether they want gay marriage or not want gay marriage in their states. So, you know, that's going to be the gist of the case in Michigan. Now, there's also Ohio, Tennessee, Kentucky, another case, a consolidated case, and that one involves whether a state that recognizes gay marriage, whether those marriages carry over to a state like Michigan that doesn't. And that's an interesting element of this as well.
Yeah, so we have essentially two questions here, and Michigan really stands alone on the voters decided one way, and the state is arguing that that should hold. Stephen, as a former Supreme Court reporter, how do you think this is all going to shake out?
Well, I mean, the justices have made it really clear how they think of these questions these days, and they have been moving since about 2003, maybe a little bit before, toward this point where laws that are passed that have only the effect of discriminating against gay people because they are gay are not constitutional. And they have said that over and over again. First in a case called Lawrence, which was about sodomy in 2003. They revisited the question with regard to sort of discrimination statutes in other states. They have never directly said it with regard to gay marriage, but the implication has been that this should not be different. Now, the idea that marriage is different is also somewhat suspect. I mean, we had this argument with race in the 60s. Marriage is not different. Marriage is a fundamental right. The court has said that over and over again. The idea that you can still do this, I think, is pretty much anachronistic, and we are something of a legal backwater at this point by continuing to enforce that amendment.
Okay, so Stephen alludes to it, the fact that the Attorney General has really taken a couple knocks here for continuing to pursue this. Critics say that he should have just left alone after there was a ruling from here. Nolan, do you get the sense from him that he is, you know, pursuing this unrealistically, or that he feels pretty firm in what his job is as Attorney General of the state?
I think he does feel that his job requires him to defend the state constitution, whether he agrees with it or not, or whether he, you know, divines that attitudes have changed. That's not his job. I don't think he's arguing whether gay marriage is good or bad. He's simply arguing that Michigan's Constitution says, you know, we don't have it here, and it's his job to defend it. Now, I tend to agree with that. I think it would be a better approach if the state voters had another chance at this. I think the outcome would be completely different, and then it would be the will of the people here rather than something imposed by the court, which is always a healthier.
Well, but you know, which of your rights do you think, your individual rights, do you think that the public should have the right to vote on? I mean, that's the real question here. This is an individual right that's protected under the Constitution. We are denying it
well, that's
to
what
a
the
class
court
of
will
people.
determine.
Well, we're denying it to a class of people because of who they are, which under the rubric of the 14th Amendment is not permissible. It is a do not discriminate part of our Constitution.
Be that as it may, Steve, it's in our Constitution. And you can't have the Attorney General, whether it's Bill Schuette or somebody else, taking a look at the Constitution and saying, yeah, well, that one shouldn't apply anymore, or that one shouldn't apply anymore.
I think you can
His hands were tied here.
I think what you can do is look at what the trend in federal law is. The court has been striking down, not just at the state level, but at the federal level, any kind of legislation that seems to discriminate against gay people because they are gay.
At any point, Michigan citizens can change that law themselves or demand that their
We
legislature
probably should
do.
have.
Yeah, and they probably should have. But you can't look at the Attorney General and say, that's up to you to decide now which pieces of the Constitution are obsolete. He had no choice but to press this case.
This is the argument that Bull Connor made. This is the argument
It's absolutely
that George Wallace made.
Absolutely
It
not.
absolutely
It is absolutely
standing
not.
in the schoolhouse door at a time when the law so clearly is not on your side.
He is doing what his office requires him to do, and that's defend the state constitution. Has nothing to do with whether he agrees that this constitutional provision is right, wrong, or sideways.
State
and the people
constitutions-
have the ability to change it, and they should.
Well,
But
state
I
constitutions
don't
are
think
subject
that
to federal.
And that's what
law.
and that's what
Especially
that's
on
what we're
marriage.
going to find out over the next couple of weeks. But it had to get to this point.
All right, so the arguments in a couple of weeks, we could get a ruling in June. Any odds on how the ruling might shake out? In terms of
My
number-wise?
prediction is that this is a 6-3 ruling with Justice Kennedy and Chief Justice Roberts joining the liberal wing of the court to say that you can't do this anymore. You can't discriminate against gays in the area of marriage. I don't think it'll be 5-4 for a number of reasons. And Roberts is the person who has moved on this question. Justice Kennedy's been there for a while.
Yeah. Last word
I
on
don't
this,
think
Nolan?
anybody expects Michigan to win this case. I think this will settle it, and in that sense, it serves a very useful purpose.
All right, and we'll be watching. Turning now to Detroit. Is it the same old council, or are they just doing their job? The Detroit City Council is getting some heat for delaying, yet again, a vote on the new $450 million Red Wings Arena project. There are a few details that the council and Ilitch-owned Olympia Development are haggling over, including development of a historic hotel. All right, so question, is it the same old council, or come on, are they doing their due diligence in making sure a massive project for the city of Detroit, that there's enough protection for the people in the city?
You can't hold the mayor harmless here either. It's the same old city, and it's the same old approach, the same old sort of hostility toward development and business, and seeing business as an object to be shaken down that led to the city's abandonment in the first place. The Ilitches and Olympia had a deal with the city. And now they're going back, the city, now that Kevin Orr's gone and the council and mayor are back in charge, now they're saying, well, that wasn't our deal. And they're trying to tinker with the deals in its place. This is an extraordinarily exciting and vital project for the city that will remake an area of Detroit that's been abandoned for 60 years. And we're diddling around asking for guarantees that can't be given and putting the whole thing at risk.
All right, do you agree with that?
No. I mean, I think first of all, the Ilitches are not due any goodwill or assumptions of good faith, given that they're
They
past.
had a deal.
So sign it. So put it in writing. So say we will do this and put it in the contract. If I tell you I'm going to do something and ask you to trust me, what's your answer?
So you're asking for guarantees of 51%. We're going to hire 51% Detroiters. Hard, flat, fast guarantee. We're going to use 30% of contractors.
They say they want to do it anyway.
They want to do it, but to hold them to a firm guarantee of that in a city with
does
a
business
workforce of the condition that Detroit's workforce is in. 12% of the people have college degrees. 70-some
These are
percent
construction
have,
jobs.
not all of them. And these are the guarantee they want is for jobs after the development is
Sure.
finished.
In
You
the
can't
arena.
commit to that, and you can ask the contractors in the city. One of the problems they have is as soon as they get somebody trained and working and making a living, they move out of Detroit and no longer count to the goal. You can't hold them to
So
unrealistic
is it the number?
guarantees.
Is it the number here that chafes, or do you lower the number of the guarantee from
I think you could-
51% to 35%?
So I think this is all. First of all, I think this is all negotiation, and that's how business works. And the idea
They had
that
already negotiated it.
somebody else had already negotiated. Now you've got a council and mayor who are going to be held responsible for what happens here. I think they're saying, look, if you want to say you want to have 51% Detroiters working on this project, put it in the agreement, put it in writing, hold yourself to it. I don't think there's anything wrong with that kind of accountability, and businesses all the time ask for that kind of accountability in contracts. There's nothing wrong when they do it to government or to someone else, but somehow all of a sudden when the people want a guarantee, it's anti-business.
Guarantees
It's
have to be
absurd.
realistic. And in this marketplace, in this workforce marketplace, you
If
can't
it's
make
not
those kind of
realistic,
guarantees.
then why are they saying they want to do
They
it?
say they're going to strive to do it, but they don't want to be held to a guarantee that they may not be able to keep.
Well, exactly. And
And it's
that,
probably better if they say, hey, we're going to try to hire as many Detroiters as we can.
and that's a
but
wonderful.
we're not stick to a number because
and that's
it's
a
impossible.
wonderful. That's a wonderful point, because that's exactly what they said when they laid out this unbelievable vision for Foxtown 20 years ago, and got a lot of public money to build it, and said essentially we're going to create Wrigleyville in the middle of Detroit from Chicago. Now you look around Comerica Park; it's a lot better area than it was, but they didn't do 50 to 60% of the things that they said they were going to do behind that project. The reason to ask for a guarantee now is because their track record has been over-promising and under-delivering. And City Council absolutely has the right to hold them accountable for
All right, last word, Nolan.
Well, Brooks is sitting out there saying, they won't work with you, we will.
He'd want the same guarantee.
And he absolutely would not. They never put those sort of shackles on business.
Wait, you really think that the Illiches would take this entire project and yank it out of the city of Detroit?
I don't think they're going to commit to agreement that doesn't allow them to put a sensible, profitable agreement in the ground. I certainly do think they would.
Well, maybe they should change the number a little bit from 51%. All right, finally tonight, we are going into the MiWeek family game cabinet, and we're pulling out the fill-in-the-blank game, the game where there is no wrong answer. It's kind of like Mad Libs, but not really. All right, you guys ready to play along with my game?
Sure.
We haven't played a game here in a long time.
gonna say,
Nolan
we
looks
used to do
sour.
this.
This is like family game night at my house, where one child is always like, do we have to play a game?
I don't want to do it.
And that's Nolan. All right, Nolan, play along. Here we go, and I'm going to start with you, Nolan. Number one, wow, Hillary Clinton is running for president. If I were in charge of her campaign, I'd fill in the blank.
Okay, I wouldn't have asked him that question.
I'd ship Bill to a faraway place and lock him up.
All right, if I were in charge, I'd...
Of Hillary Clinton's
Yeah.
campaign? I don't know. I think I might kick back and put my feet up. I don't think there's going to be much challenge inside the Democratic Party to her getting the nomination. So save your money for the general.
Really? All right, here we go. Here's question number 2. Are you ready? Senator Harry Reid thinks the field of GOP 2016 candidates are all, quote, losers. I think the GOP candidates are... Stephen, I'm going to start with you.
I think, well, there's a fair number of losers in that in that bunch. There's no
Oh,
question.
come on, name calling.
That's a good one. I mean, that's accurate. I mean, I think, well, I think some of them could be described as, interesting or visionary or. I think we're seeing some things.
Wow, you're really
come up.
hedging today,
Yeah,
man.
I know.
You
I don't
are
want to say
just
something awful.
I don't
grasping.
think that's how this game's
I don't want to
supposed
say
work, is it?
something awful, but yeah, it's a very interesting field.
What Stephen is trying to say is he's not fond of the field of GOP candidates, and he thinks Hillary Clinton is gonna roll away with this.
I don't know that she'll roll away with the general election. Depends on who they nominate, but
What was the question again?
I think that Harry Reid thinks they're losers. I think the GOP candidates
he
are.
thinks
a
no one
lot
thinks most of
fresher,
them are
more
losers.
vigorous, more transparent than the Democratic field at the moment.
Did you hear? You just lobbed the transparent thing.
Really?
You just lobbed
Rand
the
Paul?
transparent thing. All right, here we go. Question number 3. Yikes. I just looked at Wayne County's deficit. County Exec Warren Evans should probably cut... Nolan?
You probably should cut the whole county.
I was going to say, you got to cut everything. You got to cut from
What
everywhere
would
to
you-
make up $150
You should
million
probably
a
cut
year.
his wrist.
That you can't say that. You can't say that on TV. We're trying to have a fun game here. All right, I'm going to turn this over to you, Stephen, to save this question. If I were Wayne County Exec Warren Evans, he should probably cut...
I think he's got to cut everywhere. I mean, that's the thing. You can't cut one thing or another when you're that much in the red. The jail project obviously is one of the things that's going to have to go.
When do you think we're going to see some kind of resolution there? When is this
don't
going to
think
come to some
anyone
kind of
knows.
point?
I
Every
think
time I
there is a
drive
resolution.
downtown and I look at that in the bazaar, it's like you can see the little cells. It's such
Welcome to Detroit, right? You get off the freeway, it's right
and there it
there.
is. Yeah.
Turn it into some funky little boutique hotel, maybe.
It'd be a
right.
really,
You got people
really
staying
funky
in,
hotel.
Well, you got people staying in these
The micro
rail cars.
Yeah,
and
right.
Why not these half-finished jail sales? I mean,
And that's
could be hot.
I think that there's a job for you with Dan Gilbert's crew to start some development there, Nolan. All right, here's the last one. A new survey shows that out of 200 jobs, the worst one to have is newspaper reporter. That's funny. Working for a newspaper is, Nolan.
Like having stage 4 cancer.
You are the worst
terrible.
game player that I've ever played with.
Everyday conditions get a little worse, and you keep hoping for a miracle that's
Right.
probably not coming. So,
Wow. With the 20 seconds left, Stephen, you care to tackle that one?
Mencken called it the life of kings, and that has been my experience.
Wow. You know what, guys? This experience has made me say we should play games more often.
We should play games. We're not very
Checkers
good
next
at
time.
it.
And I will have to say that if the newspaper reporter was the worst job, a couple down the list was broadcaster. And that's going to do it for My Week. We hope you fill in the blank the show. Find us on Facebook and on Twitter. We're there during the week, so you can always get your My Week fix. And after we say goodbye to you, we're going to be still talking, so head to myweek.org for an extra My Week segment that you won't see on TV. For all of us at Detroit Public TV, I'm Christy McDonald. Have a great night. We'll see you next week.
Recently, Michigan's economy has begun to turn around. Michigan's gained over 250,000 new jobs. We've paid off $20 billion in long-term debt. And our population is increasing for the first time in a decade. But to make Michigan a top 10 state, there's still plenty of work to be done. Step up and help put Michigan on top. Learn what you can do at MichiganTurnaroundPlan.com.
Funding is also provided by Delta,